Tonight on the other side, we're going to talk about the override, how it went from 50 to 500. We're going to talk about IEPs, and we're going to be talking about Common Core. Stay tuned. We have a full panel this evening. We have, as always, Mr. Fournier is with me, and Josh Cote, our producer, is here in person this evening.
Out from behind the booth.
We dragged him out and forced him to be part of the show this evening. Josh is our education specialist, more or less, on the show, so what we're going to be talking about tonight...
I'm really not.
What we're going to be...
I'm a parent. Let's not confuse this.
What we're going to be talking about tonight is somebody who's well-versed in IEPs and a lot of the other information we're going to be going over tonight. But before we start, I'm going to throw it out to you guys. The override, we went from 50 votes turning it down to 500 votes turning it down. How did that happen?
Not really sure exactly how it happened, other than I believe there was a lot of false information put out there, and not anybody has. Two things. First of all, a lot of false information put out there, like $500 for your tax bill is going to go up. And number two, I think it's, I don't think people have faith in the school district itself.
Oh, I don't think so at all.
And the amount of, the level it requires for the people in this town to feel comfortable that $448,000 or $68,000 was going to stay for town services. You know, I think that was the biggest. Two of the biggest
ones. This had
ones.
nothing to do with the school, though, right?
Absolutely not.
No.
And the town budget's not like a school budget. The town budget, they can't move money around without. It's because the school budget, you can do whatever you want, but these guys can't do that. So the money's fairly secure on what they're going to use it for.
Well, I think the fear, and I talked, and we all have, we've all talked to people who said the same thing, is basically what people I think are afraid of in this town is not that you can move the money. You know, once, say, the override passes and next year the school comes up like they probably will and say, well, we need an override or we need this or we need that. They're afraid that what's going to happen is, you know, they're going to ask us for the money. The town may come back and say no, and then they're going to turn around and they're going to put it back on the ballot again, which is their right. They can put it back on the ballot just like they did the last time. And if it goes back again and it gets shot down again, that the state will step in and say, and mandate that you pay it. So that's kind of the backdoor way that I think people are worried. And I think it's a real fear. But you can't keep living your life based on that.
The state's going to mandate that they pay it anyway?
Yeah, I mean, that was a threat that was used against us the last time, if you remember. They were saying, you know, we can...
Oh, yeah, well, the state did come in
and
came up with the number and made them, you know, pay whatever.
And that's
you had to wait until, what,
right,
December,
it was a long
December 15th
process.
or November 25th or something like that. That was painful, but... And you work on a 1/12 budget before that, so it kind of, you know, puts the screws to the town anyway because they have to pay that 1/12 budget, and usually that's, you know, the state just picks a 1/12 budget and they pick a number and they, you know, you have to pay it. So.
And you're waiting for the axe to fall. So I understand. I understand. I think what stunned, I don't know about you guys, but what stunned me was this thing went from just losing by a mere 50 votes to going up by 500 votes. What happened? I mean, what do you guys think? What was the breakdown that caused this thing to jump that people were so fervent about shooting it down?
Where did the original 50-person?
That was on the last vote we had.
Oh, was that okay?
And that's when that got shot down. He only lost by 50 votes. So I think the thinking might have been maybe we didn't explain this well enough. And Kyle, could you put the graphic up on where the money was supposed to go had the override passed? And that's going to show where all the money was supposed to go. And I thought they did a okay. Well, this is the impact. If the override had passed, what Kyle's showing you right now is based on your home. If it's $150,000, the override increase would have been $79 per year, $175, $91 per year, and so on. I think the selectmen, and that's, we're talking a cup of coffee. This is the one here, town services election question. Basically where the money was supposed to go. And I think the thinking with the select board, well, I know it was because I went to enough of the meetings that they felt that maybe they hadn't broken it down enough and explained it enough. But it ended up shooting up to 500. I mean, I was kind of stunned. You know, I thought it was going to be a very close vote, and it wasn't. It wasn't even remotely close. And I think a little bit. What did we say? A little bit better than half the town.
We have about 7,100 registered voters, 7,000. About 4,100 people came out and voted.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, all things considered, that's
For
a
an
pretty good
election
turnout. But it's
around
a
here, yeah.
national election too. I mean, we usually don't get that kind of a turnout. But the fact that this thing got shut down.
So what
you know,
happened?
Oh, yeah, Kyle said it's a midterm. It's a midterm election, so
midterm
it's an
election.
important
Right.
election. That was an astounding amount of votes to be beat down by. I mean, where do you go from here? I mean, you know,
Well,
You don't-
What happens now?
exactly.
I mean, we're not going to have quite a few services, I'm assuming.
Well, those have already been cut.
And
What this override was going to do
We're
was
up the
was
creek.
it was going to put those services back in the we had the seniors were going to get Maple Street.
Right.
That was going to get done. You had Parks and Recreation. The town hall was going to open up back to normal hours. Library
department training.
library was going to stay open, and then you had the emergency services were going to be
Right.
will be fine. But it wasn't a lot of money.
No, in the grand scheme of things, no.
It wasn't a lot of money, and unfortunately there's going to be a lot of people who, forget about your parks. They're all done. They're all closed. You go there on your own accord, and there'll be no lifeguards and stuff. It's right back. And I don't know what's going to happen come plow time, come winter time.
That account is one of those accounts, one of the only accounts that you can overspend on. So say you project to spend $250,000 for that year. If you exceed it, you can make that up, but you usually have to make it up in free cash, or if there's a winter emergency or a general fund like that one year where we had the snow emergency, the state actually kicks money back to you. But that's kind of a rare situation. But that's the only count you can overspend. So I'm kind of hoping that as far as snow removal goes, that's not going to be a huge issue. The other issue is going to be on the back end. How do you pay for it? And that's going to probably come out of free cash. And who knows what free cash is going to be at this point.
Well, you know what the sad part is? Adam Gaudette and the selectmen did their due diligence to get this information out to everybody. Okay, he broke it down. This is what the entire cost is going to be for the override. It was 52 cents a thousand, $104 based on a $200,000 home. And then he took every single department or everything that had been cut and broke that down so that you knew where the money was going, like 90,000.
Oh, they did a great job. No question.
He had it broken down to the how much per thousand it was going to cost.
Yeah, see, Kyle's got it up right now.
It was a different one that I was hoping that they had. Is there a page 13, Kyle?
That is page 13 right there.
Yeah. There was another one that showed each individual service or the location of what it was going to go to, how much it was, the cost per thousand, and then the annual cost. And I thought that we had that, but I guess we don't.
I didn't send that over. That was my fault. I didn't send it over to Kyle. I sent him the other 2 pages because I thought those were, because there was so much information. He only had such limited time to do it because I just sent it over tonight. The thing, I guess, that really floors me is basically if you own a $200,000 home, you're talking basically $9 a month.
Oh, here it is right here.
And that's when I love when people say, well, we're being taxed to death. Well, $9 a month, and I'm sure
we're
there's
not being taxed to death in Spencer.
No. It's almost like we have this God-given right that we have to have,
Here-
one of the lower tax rates. Not the lowest. We're like 34th from the bottom.
Here it is.
We're not-
Here
we're
it is.
not the
Here it is
lowest.
right here. Okay, if this whole thing had gone through the town, it was $484,000, 52 cents a thousand, and then $104 overall on your tax bill. Council on Aging was going to get 90,000. That was 10 cents out of that. Public Safety was 52,000. Their share was 6 cents. The library was 92,000. Their share was 10 cents. Parks and Recreation was 61,000 or 6 cents. Highway was 51,000, which is 5 cents. And the town hall, which was the most, was $138,000 to go back to full time, which was 15 cents a thousand, or $30 a year.
Kind of amazing.
$30 a year.
I don't know. I didn't.
We're in trouble.
I.
Okay, we're in trouble.
do you
This
say?
town-
That's putting
the
it lightly.
We're in trouble.
What do you say? I mean, it's like
Hey, we
they're
got
gonna
one of the
close- they're
lowest.
gonna close the
We got one of
library.
the and we're going to lose accreditation in that. We got one of the lowest tax rates in the state, and it reflects on the town. The town's a dump.
It's kind of going that way.
The town is becoming a dump.
I mean,
You know?
people keep saying the one constant. In fact, I got to mention this. There was Lily Lund's Facebook site, the Spencer Forum, was just aglow with comments. Our site, the post you put up there after the election, got 971 hits. I mean, that's a phenomenal. I mean, the activity on that, it was so bad.
That was just after last night.
It was so bad. A guy got on there and was making comments. I'm not going to mention the person's name, but he was making comments, and they were really off the cuff, and they were kind of saying that, you know, this is almost like, you know, you're a welfare recipient, you're begging the state for money. This is about funding our town. This is about funding where we live and making a quality of life here for $8 a month. Okay,
He was comparing us raising our tax rate
Yes.
to being on welfare.
And at first
Yes.
I read it because Paul called me at work and he goes, "You got to see this." And I go on there and I look at it and I'm going, and the guy's he's being cocky and off the cuff.
So he has no concept of what this actually is, because this is us paying
He's
for
not alone.
ourselves as opposed to the state
But
paying
he's
for
not
us,
alone.
which is what welfare is. That's incredible that people think that way. Wow.
Oh, it's
That's amazing.
The people I talk to, people are like,
amazing.
you know, well, we gotta, you know, we gotta tighten our belt. We gotta do this. We gotta do that. We were already before the cuts operating on a 2008 budget. We had not exceeded 2008, so that's 6 years we've been living with the same budget. I didn't think it was unreasonable, but I mean, everybody has a reason for not voting, and I'm not going to sit there and say some people didn't have good reasons. But the large and vast majority of this town, are you going to tell me you couldn't afford $8 a month on a $200,000 home?
Adam Gaudette sent us a PowerPoint presentation, and I'm sure a lot of you didn't get a chance to see it. Somehow, way, shape, or form, I'm going to try and get it onto Facebook. I'm not sure how to do that, but I'll get it to my site.
There
Get it to
is
the
a
site.
way.
Okay, and if I can't, yeah, you should know.
I have no idea.
Yeah, you know,
I'm just a
how do you
parent.
turn that
I'm not an
computer on?
expert.
Right? But Adam shows over a course of a period of time of why we needed this. Where has the money gone? We had a drop of $500,000 in income between 10 and 11. $500,000 into the town. It was unbelievable.
Well, one of the shows, a couple of shows ago, we read off a list of statistics of how much money we had lost over the last decade from the state, and it was an astronomical. I don't remember
Between
the
the
numbers.
schools and the
Yeah,
the town, the
between
local aid to the
education
town,
and
yeah.
town and local aid, and you know, and again, that goes back to our state reps. It's like, where's Ann Goby? You know, now she's going to be senator. How come none of this money ever seems to make it back to where it's supposed to? None of it makes it back to roads. None of it makes it back to education, which is a whole nother argument. But if you're not willing to support your own town, there's something very wrong. And everybody keeps saying, well, we're a community. No, we're not. We're like I said to you earlier, we're like these satellites all floating around, and every once in a while we get together if something's important. We look up from our phones and go, oh, that's nice, and then just keep rolling on.
I think what, you know, you have to pay the state, right? They're going to get theirs. They always do,
yeah.
right? So just to spite them, you don't pay your town. That's bad.
That's about what it
That's
is.
about what it is, and that's
That's
pretty
pretty much-
stupid.
that's in a
It
nutshell.
really is. That's cutting off your nose to spite your face.
That's in a nutshell. I mean,
Yeah.
I really don't know what else to say about it. I'm not shocked and I'm not surprised, because I've lived here long enough to know that people just seem to have this unbridled sense of, we don't have to pay for this. Well, you know, everything else goes up. Gas goes up. You know, the cost of furniture goes up. Everything goes up right across the board. Trucking costs, everything. So why doesn't local government have to move with that too? And I mean, 2.5% is not getting it done. You know, unfortunately, we can't raise our rate beyond 2.5% because that's the law. You know, and that's probably a good thing, but that's why the overrides are in place. But the system is
But the town's done very well to stay within their means. They haven't
they have.
overspent.
No, there's nothing to spend.
There's no
the town-
want.
You
There's
got to
no.
remember,
fine, yeah.
prior to the school going down, when Naaman was here, we had $1.2 million in free cash, and we were fairly stable. We actually had a high credit rating. We were in great shape. All it took was one incompetent administrator to come in here and tank this. And we've been trying to recover from that ever since.
But even that's confused because we say we're trying to recover from it, but then you have what they did this year, where they started out needing $600,000+ plus
You're
$600,000.
talking to school.
Talking to school. Plus another $600,000 for technology, and then we, months and months later, we come back around and it's
There it is.
"Come on, I don't need it.
We found that
So-
money again.
So
Oh,
you
no.
gotta you have to find a way to separate the town and the school as best you can, because the town has done what they're supposed to do. They've done, they've watched what they've spent. They haven't screwed around that badly with anything. The school district's a disaster. I mean, they have no idea how much money they have, how much
No.
money they don't have, what it's being spent on. It's a disaster. So you got to separate those two, because the town's getting screwed.
Well, when I got up at that meeting and I questioned the $800,000 that was supposedly floating around in the system, you saw what happened. Claudia came after me, Malvi came after me. They didn't answer the question. And just the year before, Jason Rio had said, listen, I'm seeing $1 million discrepancy. Vinny goes, garbage in, garbage out. That's their answer.
I remember that.
That's their answer
it's
to
'cause
the
I
innocent
guarantee you-
questioning.
And he's a CPA.
Yeah,
I
this guy
guarantee
knows
you,
his
sitting
stuff.
at that table, there wasn't one person sitting at that table that could have answered that question anyway, because they
Not in
don't
that
know how
period of
much
time.
money.
That's right.
No.
They don't know how much
And
money
I'm not
is
blaming
there.
it. I'm
I
not
was
blaming
on-
it on the school committee. I'm
Well,
not
no,
saying,
I was on
you
the
know,
school committee for 3 years, and I can tell you right now, unless there was a piece of paper in front of me saying this is how much money's in there, how would I know how much money?
That's
And,
not
and
your
I
job.
only know how much money it says on this lousy piece of paper that I have that came out of a printer 2 hours earlier, and it changes every 15 minutes.
And that's
so
the issue.
They don't have a clue what's going on.
That's the issue.
know?
When you used to watch Roger Pomperian sit at the school committee meeting, and you saw him, he'd sit with a 3-ring binder that was stacked, and I go, well, how much is? He'd flip it right open and go right to it, because that's his job. That's not my job. That's his job. On a school committee, you try to govern as best you can with very, very, very limited knowledge on a breadth of information. So I'm not tagging
Well,
the school committee.
committee's a dangerous
But
thing.
it's the administrators are the ones that hold the keys to the kingdom. We had a good business manager. We lost her. I think Julie's smart because I think she's bailing for a good reason. I think she wants out of here as quickly as possible.
Well, I think it's stressful.
I think the money's floating around this system within the school committee within the school district. And again, they proved it this year. 2 years ago, they proved it. Oh, we don't need debt override. We're all set. Oh, we don't need that debt exclusion for the computer. We're all set. This year, they found $1.1 million. Now, I understand some of this came from the state, and some of it dribbles in from here and there, but small wonder we don't have any faith in the system, because we know that succubus over here is going to feed off of us, and it's going to bleed us dry. And I'm not saying we shouldn't support education, but I'm not going to support education until somebody shows me where the damn money's going. And Ted, just a hint, spreadsheet, lay it all out. But we know that's not going to
Well, that's
happen.
what we were saying earlier this year. I mean, you can get your credibility back. I mean, maybe you're right. Maybe we're completely wrong, and you can account for every penny that was there. It came in from here. It came in from there. Everything's all set. We'll write it down. Start with that first number you gave us back in February. Start there and show us every dollar that you managed to cut out of that budget until you came to that final number. Nobody did that. Nobody did that.
It's because they
I would have
go
liked it. And
they
I
go to
don't-
school for that.
I don't know if they did. I don't believe they did, but I would have liked to
No.
have seen the selectmen demand it.
We
They're
asked the
paying
selectmen to
80
demand a
they're
forensic audit.
paying
they wouldn't do it.
80% of that damn budget. Spencer does 80. East
Did you
Brookfield
see
does
what
20.
Did you see what the school
know?
department gave for
The
for the computers?
That was funny. That was
It was
funny.
4 lines.
Yep. They asked for a breakdown on the expenditures for the capital needs debt exclusion, and they sent them.
A half a piece of paper was like this.
Yeah, and I swear to God, I'm not even lying. And it looked just like that.
It's just like this.
and
And
that's
they
all
couldn't
it
spring
was.
for the full-size paper.
They had we needed 150. We needed so many switches at $150,000. What was that, Kyle?
There's a
It was-
there's a reason that I avoid school committee meetings at this point in my life.
Oh, they are
So,
amusing. It's one, like Paul said on one of the first shows. He showed the ball with the cups with those cups, and he was doing the shell game. It was like 3-card Monte. All right, we beat that to death.
Moving on.
Let's move on.
We move
Josh,
on.
recently, why don't you explain how we came to be talking about this tonight, about the IEPs and the Title I grants and whatnot. Explain. Your
Well, we were
situation.
talking about Title I just because I had an issue with Title I.
Right.
As far as Title I goes, one of my children was receiving Title I services for the last few years, and then all of a sudden this year they weren't. And I never really got a good explanation as to why she wasn't getting the services anymore. But I did notice that a lot of the progress she was making, especially in math, was starting to slide back. So, I have no idea what happened to Title I. I ended up calling, and we had her put on a 504. But I never got a really good answer about it. Where the services went, what happened, why we weren't notified, why, I couldn't even get a letter in the mail that said, oh, your child isn't getting Title I services this year. Or, they just stopped.
And what was the answer
Kinda
they
funny.
gave you when you called?
Well, it was kind of a circle. They talked in circles, and then we basically went over to the 504. It was.
Now, was
we
that their
really don't-
idea, or was that your idea to move to a 504?
Oh, it was ours. It was ours, definitely, because we knew we could do it. So, we knew what we wanted for her. We knew what accommodations we wanted for her, and if she wasn't going to get the accommodations through Title I, which is the small group instruction and stuff like that, we just put her on a 504 and do it that way. It wasn't a big deal. And I have to say, I don't like saying nice things about pupil services normally, because I've heard so many horror stories about it, and I've seen firsthand how inefficient they can be. They were very good with us, and I called and boom, was taken care of right away. And actually, I received the written copy a couple days ago, so that was fine. But I'm a little concerned about what they're actually doing for Title I services in this district. I'm assuming it's a district-wide program because our low-income population is high enough that they can do a district-wide program.
40% is the cutoff.
40% is the cutoff.
Which means that 40% of your
40%
low-income students.
40% of your population is low income. At that point, you
Student population.
can yeah
Right.
You can do a district-wide program.
Well, explain what Title I does, because and then I want you to explain what an IEP and a 504 is, because you're throwing these numbers out, and people at home might be going, "The hell's a 504?" So start out with
It's one more than a 503.
our other educational expert. To explain what a 504 is,
Okay.
or why you had her put on a
So
504.
an IEP and a 504. An IEP it's modifications. That is this is basically how you remember it. An IEP is modifications. A 504 is accommodations. Okay. A 504 is accommodations that you make in a classroom to help a child with a disability. There's a lot of different things they can do, but that's what it is. It's accommodations. An IEP is more modifying, I guess, the curriculum or special instructions, specialized services, stuff like that. No matter what, they have to have a diagnosis of something. And there's a whole process that you have to go through to get them on one of these programs. It was a little easier for us because we had already we started it a long time ago. But basically, the most important things to remember is an IEP is modifications, and a 504 is accommodations. There's a difference there, and they're different laws. The 504 is part of the Rehabilitation Act, and the IEP is part of the I'm gonna forget. I gotta look now. It's individuals with disabilities Individuals with Disabilities Education Act is what that's part of. Title I is a whole another program to help. It's a program where you're given money
Through grants.
through grants
Right.
to help students that are in need or in danger of possibly failing, or
It's to help kids before they get lost.
helps bring them up and gives them the instruction they need so they can do better on the testing and everything, and these kids basically pass and get through. That's all grants. That's a completely separate thing. IEPs and 504s are part of pupil services and the special ed program. Title I is usually separate. In this district, the Title I is actually managed by the pupil services director. So you're smirking.
I'm smiling because it's like, once again, it's one of those incredible hats that Karen wears that, I don't know. I guess my problem with this is Title I is supposed to be to help kids out that are in need, and it's a grant, but if it exceeds.
Here's the other part about Title I that I left out, not to cut you off. So you qualify for Title I by your income, but you qualify for Title I by need. So, and Title I doesn't pay to educate these students at risk.
And when you're saying Title I, you qualify by income, not income. It's not. They don't look at the student's income and say this.
It's your population.
Right.
So your district qualifies
Right.
for it.
That's what I wanted
okay?
to qualify. That's all.
So your district qualifies for it, but a student's need dictates their involvement. So it doesn't matter how much money you get. If that student needs it, that student is supposed to get services. So everybody that needs it is supposed to get services. You're getting the money, and the money is not there to take care of all the students. The money is there to supplement what you already have.
Explain what happens when you hit that 40% threshold, where 40% of your district by population is at that 40% mark, where you have low-income kids and they hit that magic mark. What happens with that money?
So then you can go to a district-wide program, and everybody can get the benefit of the Title I money.
Which is kind of defeating, because it defeats the purpose of why it was put there in the first place, which is to help the kids that needed it the most.
Well, in a well-functioning district, you would assume that this would be money that supplements and gives them, a little bit extra breathing room,
right.
some programs to give extra help to everybody if they need it. But I don't know how well-functioning we are.
And it's one of those gray areas where we may never know where that money's actually
You don't know
going.
where that money goes, and I can't sit here and tell you how much money we're supposed to get, because the money is just doled out by the state. And
Now keep in mind,
And part of that money goes to aid or a teacher, or it's used to also employ for
administrators.
employment. Correct?
or
It
administrators or
Right,
secretaries.
but it has to be used for that. You're not supposed to go hire a librarian.
I suppose if you can say that it's helping the students at risk. and if
Okay,
it's a
theoretically,
district-wide program,
let me-
I suppose you
okay.
can get away with it. I mean, we
Let me
get
get
away with
back-
all
with a lot
kinds
of
of stuff.
things.
I don't know
Let
what
me-
you can get away with.
All right, let me get back into the real world then. So theoretically,
Theoretically, it's supposed to supplement your budget to help the kids that need services. If you're below 40%, you have to spend the money on those kids. More specifically, if you're above 40%, it can be a district-wide program. I think that's where it becomes easier to mingle the monies together. But either way, it's supposed to help the educational quality in that district. You would assume that if you're given a lump of extra money to help the quality of education in that district, you would be doing it.
Now, my
But I don't
question
know.
to you is, by you asking to have your daughter put on a 504 because she was not getting the Title I grant aid that she needed,
Yeah.
is that more expensive for the district?
I would assume.
That's what I'd be curious to know, because it's like, we know that when it came up with the capital with the debt exclusion for the computers, that Karen Zaleski was able to find $40,000 from special ed that apparently we didn't need to help the kids with it, and gave it to the school to help defray the cost of the computers.
That completely amazes me that SPED would be able, or Pupil Services, whatever you want to call it, would be able to give a dime back because they can't afford to service.
No.
They got
the
$6 million.
children, and they still can't afford to service.
They have
these
the
kids.
highest
Six-
budget by
six-
three times the amount
$6
of any other
million.
budget.
They have a huge budget, and they have. I mean, we have a large population, and a lot of students that need to be serviced, and a wide range of needs.
Yes, we do.
Very expensive needs. I don't, and
So-
I see kids that are in need. I see parents that are requesting services and requesting testing and going through all of these, all the loops and all the foolishness that you have to go through to get your kid on an IEP or a 504. And I see the district stretching it out to the last day. And I see the district arguing with people over, well, your student really doesn't need this service. They don't really need this service. And parents having to fight for it and eventually winning. So how can you possibly give money back if you can just barely deal with what you're doing now?
Well, here's my opinion, and I'm not like you where you always spin stuff like, some theorist out in left field sometimes, or how
The Bob's famous conspiracy
the
theories?
conspiracy theory stuff.
And
Mel-
how do you
it's-
feel that that's a conspiracy theory, thinking that
Mel-
they're hiding money within
Because
the
I don't
school
know.
system?
No, because I don't normally do that. But this is my opinion on what's going on in that, and it's the reason why it's so hard for people to get services for their kids is I think that money is spread out throughout the district, some way, shape, or form. Remember how we just talked about the 40%? And I think it's funding other things. And when a parent comes to pupil services and says, "Hey, I've got this, they go, "Oh boy," and not literally. Well, maybe she does. I don't know. She might be running around a round room and trying to hide in a corner somewhere. But I think what happens is this panic sets in, and I think, geez, we got to stretch this out a little bit because we may not have enough money to do this, or
yeah.
we
I
can't
agree.
afford to do this because the money that we were supposed to be using.
Well, think about how expensive it could be. Just one student. Now, you got to separate Title I from IEPs and 504s. So the 40% thing, push that off to the side. Let's just look at IEPs and 504s, pupil services. One parent comes in, they say, I need to have my child tested. Child's tested, comes back. That child needs a ton of services. That child's going to need one-on-one services. Well, now you have to have another person. You have to hire another person. That they need one-on-one services, and that's just the start of it. So it's a lot of money
Oh,
to
it is
service
expensive.
to
There's no
service.
question.
So yeah, I can absolutely see the district trying to push it off because they're looking at the freight train coming down the tracks at them. We've got to hire more people. We've got to have this. We've got to have that, and it's just going to keep costing us more and more money. They're supposed to have the money, so it makes you wonder where they're spending the money.
Well, the problem I have with that, and I understand what you're saying, I understand where you're going with that, but my problem is be honest with people. Don't sit there and BS somebody and tell somebody, oh, well, you don't have your paperwork in, or you don't have this, or you don't have that.
We're
or
going.
do like they did
We're
with
going
Lydia
through that.
Bischoff.
We're going through that right now. And I know of at least 2 parents who have moved out of this district. They still live in the towns, but they've.
Move this.
And their kids are doing
Their
great.
kids are and I know for a fact one of the parents, within a week of his kids going into that other school
what you're
district,
talking
within a week, he got a telephone call, and everything was already laid out. When he went to the meeting, everything was laid out onto the table. Everything.
Said it
Well,
was
that's
phenomenal.
what's supposed to happen. So what happens is you decide that your child there's a problem, and you want to have them evaluated. You request the evaluation. From the date you request the evaluation, formally request the evaluation, they have 30 days to test. And from the official date of the request, they have 45 days to do an IEP meeting and have a written IEP. And then you go from there. Either you agree or you don't agree. If you don't agree to it and you reject it, that starts a whole nother process going on. But there's a time limit that they have. Once you do the official request, they have to have that done within 45 school days, not calendar days. And I mean, it's all in the law. There's you go on the DOE website.
Why
And
don't you show that piece of
it,
information you've got?
So there's a guide on the DOE's website called "The Parent's Guide to Special Education," and it's very, very helpful. It answers all of the questions that you have. It gives the timeline. It tells you what it should look like. It tells you what the team should look like that's going to do the IEP meeting. It shows you what the IEP should have in it. It talks about 504s. It talks about what happens if you disagree with it and you reject it or you accept the IEP in part. It tells who you appeal to. It tells if you have an IEP and you're not receiving the correct services, where you go, what agency you deal with for
Now,
that.
where do you find that information? Where do you find that something like that booklet?
That is on the DOE's website under the little icon that says special education.
Because I guess that's the biggest problem I have is because we've talked to a number of parents, and Aaliyah Bishop being one of them, Bischoff being
Yep.
one of them.
Yeah, she had a horrible time with
She
this
went
whole
through
thing, yeah.
the DOE website, got the information, actually took them to task, and almost took them to the point of going to court.
Yeah.
And that's when they realized, well, she's not going to let this thing go, so we're going to have to do this.
It's-
That's not right.
It sounded like she actually, and you talked to her more than I did, but it sounded like she had gone to mediation.
Yep.
There's a couple options. You can do mediation. You can do advising, where both parties, the parent agrees with the district to have somebody from the state basically come in, evaluate everything, and give you a suggestion. It's not binding, but give you a suggestion on what you should do. I'm not really sure how that works. A suggestion, it's all it really is.
Well, the one thing parents have to do is document everything.
Yes,
and
and
you
they-
know
you
that
do
better.
have to
You guys know
document
that better
everything.
than anybody.
And
It's
then,
like-
and then the fourth option is a hearing, and a hearing is costly, time-consuming. It involves lawyers. There are organizations that have lawyers that will do work for free. That's on the DOE website also, places to contact. But the hearing it's kind of the last resort because it is time-consuming. It takes a while to get there. It costs the district a lot of money. It can cost the parent a lot of money if they don't, find a lawyer that.
Well, Pupil
willing to work
Services
for free.
does, from what I understand. I've talked to several people who've been in this situation, who've taken it to those lengths. Is they'll get it to the point where they know they're going to actually have to start spending money instead of time, and and this is in a case where 2 or 3 parents I know had spent like over $5,000 for advocates and lawyers and everything else, and they said, "Oh, okay, we'll let you do this time."
Well,
That's wrong.
Here's
that's no left-wing theory. That's just
That's
flat out wrong.
and you guys will know this. Here's a little known secret about about special ed law. It's very, very complicated, and usually there's a lawyer. The school district has a lawyer that specializes in that, and they're very, very expensive, more expensive than the regular lawyer. So when you are a parent and a district, and you're pushing that parent and pushing them, trying to push them off right to the point where you have to go get the lawyers involved. It's very expensive for a district to get its lawyers involved because special education lawyers are very expensive people. So once the district knows they're going to spend money, and you go to a hearing or something, it's going to cost the district a ton of money that they don't have. They do not want to do that.
Well, it's sad that it has to get to that point because by law, this is what we're supposed to do. And if you can't afford to do it, again, here we are with the honesty thing. Just be honest and say, look, we'd love to do this right now, but we're in a financial bind. No, instead they play these games, and I mean we've been in contact with some parents recently who are still going through
I
problems.
have no
It's
sympathy for the school district. You have a responsibility to offer
By law.
to offer equal education for all students. If you can't afford it, you should have done a better job at doing your job. Tough. Figure it out and get it done. I have no sympathy for any school district that says, that tries to pull this crap, because these are people's lives. You're screwing with people's lives.
Well, I think we mentioned Aaliyah Bischoff. I talked to her a couple weeks ago, and she said her son Dakota is doing phenomenal. He's getting everything he's supposed to get. His education is jumped light years. His social skills have improved drastically. I mean, this is a kid that wasn't getting what he needed. Now he's getting it, and this is what we're supposed to be about as a school district and as a community. We're supposed to help the kids that can least help themselves, especially those kids we're supposed to be helping. Instead of getting some bean counter who's going to sit there and give everybody the runaround and shift money around here and there with Secret Ted, and we don't know where it is really. It's like
Well, I'm hoping at some point in time that we can disclose a couple of these parents, who these parents are, and it's unfortunate that some of these parents feel as though they can't come forward and speak to us or speak at a school
just
committee
like the
meeting,
teachers.
or speak because they're afraid of retribution.
Well, I think they're afraid of retribution. They're afraid. They're not comfortable talking about the situation of their kids.
And
so they
I'm
just kind of accept it.
I'm sure, me sitting here talking about, my daughter being involved in what she's involved with is pushing what I should be talking about. But you know what, it is what it is. So.
Well, I know this.
Your kid's on a 504, an IEP. They need to get their services. They have a right to get their services. And if you're getting jerked around by these people, that poor woman that was on the show, that it took her forever. I mean, now our kid's doing great, and that's awesome. But how much time was lost screwing around? Because they were screwing her around.
Well,
it really sucks.
I've got. There's a couple of people that stay in contact with me, but I've got one that updates me every couple of weeks of what's going on. She's had at least 2 meetings, and the IEP is not being followed. As a matter of fact, 2 of the things that this child is supposed to be getting still aren't on the IEP. Now we're into the first week of November. So we're two full months into school, and this child is. He's falling behind.
Another thing parents need to realize is you can have somebody advocate for you. Mm-hmm. They can come into the IEP meeting.
Oh, absolutely. And you can get free advocates.
Don't ever let a school district tell you that, this person can't be there, that person can't be there. It says right in the law that if that person has something that they can add to that IEP, if they have knowledge of the child's situation, anything like that, and they give a list. It's everybody from a family friend to a priest to to another teacher, whatever. They can go into that meeting and advocate for that child. You can't. The rules are not binding to keep people out. And those IEP meetings, be as prepared as you possibly can be. Go on. That's where it's important to go on those websites and look and pay attention to all that stuff, because it's important, and it's hard to get all those people in a room, and it's hard to getting that meeting, a 504 meeting or an IEP meeting. It's gonna it takes a week or so to get everybody together, and they have a certain amount of time to have the meeting. So when you do, be ready and have all your stuff together, so when you go in there and know what you want to see. And they should either have the IEP right there for you to review, or they should give it to you right at the end of the meeting, and you review that and make sure that absolutely everything is in there that you want. And if it's not, then you have to go back to them. You have to decide, am I going to reject this? And if you reject it, the school district actually has to report that to the one of the agencies at the state, or you can accept it in part, and then you have to deal with the part that you're not accepting. But be prepared in those IEP meetings, because you don't get a lot of shots at that. There's a lot of information. So.
Well, it's like Aaliyah said when the one thing she didn't get a chance to mention when she was here, and her and I talked about that afterwards, was she said, and she had said this to us on a couple of occasions, that she tried to tape the meetings. And Malvy and Zaleski would not hear of having those meetings taped. You can't tape the meetings. And I said to her when this happened, you can tape a meeting as long as it's what they call open and notorious. In other words, everyone has to be aware that it's being taped. You can certainly opt out, but you can't tell somebody they can't tape it. That's,
You know,
Well,
I think I remember reading something about that you can.
Sure.
Oh, you can. I know you can, because we did it.
in-
We did it with the town a number of years back during a signed bylaw thing, and we brought a video camera in, and they're like, "You can't tape this." I said, "We most
Yeah,
certainly
but because
can."
it's a special ed thing, I can see why they're trying to do that. But I
That had absolutely nothing to do with it.
Well,
I
her
read something
what
that you could.
she wanted to do it because there was so much information floating around.
And nobody was
that-
being honest.
Well, yeah, but I mean, as far as what was supposed to be going on and what was supposed to, she's like, I want to tape this just so I can make sure that I'm doing the proper things that you're asking me to do, and I'm getting the information correct so I can go back and listen to it again. And that's apparently somebody
Hey, if they
said.
won't let you tape it, then make their life miserable. Bring 3 or 4 people in there with notebooks and speak very slowly, because I got to write all this down. I have a horrible memory. Can you repeat that a few times for me? I didn't quite get that.
Well, it's funny because Aaliyah said,
make their lives miserable.
Aaliyah told me, she said these emails were flying back and forth, and she finally got fed up with dealing with Karen Zaleski and went directly to Ted. And Ted's like, oh, I know nothing about this. She said, well, your CCs are all over her emails, meaning you're getting copies of everything that's going on here. So you're not only aware of it, but now you're lying. This is what we're dealing with this system. And that's the part that really ticks me off, is that everybody sits and says, oh, I have absolutely no knowledge of this. Baloney.
Hey,
it's like, give me a break.
I never opened the email.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
like,
right.
it came
I
to my
never-
account, but that Gmail account I don't use all
Never
the time.
opened it.
It's like,
It would go to the trash or
It goes
spam.
directly to my junk mail. There's nothing I can do about it. It's so. Nah, I think we've beaten that to death.
yeah, the important thing is to get the information.
The thing
out
is,
to
it
people.
just doesn't stop. It doesn't
Does not
stop.
I
I
mean,
don't know what it is with this school district, but you try to straighten something out, or parents try to take care of something, and this just doesn't stop. It's constant, constant, constant.
because there's no leadership in this district, and God willing, I mean, we're coming up on, I guess the next meeting is the 18th. At some
Hey,
point,
is the new superintendent gonna start by then?
rumor has it. I mean, I'm hoping
Is
we
this-
give
is
Ted
this
his walking
5
papers
and
at some
5
point.
and 5 years, or 5 and 4 years, or is that where we're at?
Yeah,
5 and 4 years,
What?
superintendent.
Oh, yeah,
we're rolling right along.
yeah.
I mean, I just want to get this woman that they hired. Let's get her in here, and I think that's the goal for the school committee. They had the meeting scheduled for the 4th, and apparently because it was election day, they decided not to do it. Now, from what I understand, they're going to meet on the 18th. Why are we waiting 2 weeks? Why can't they just have just get together, have a meeting, sign off whatever paperwork you need to, and get this new superintendent in here, and give Ted his 10-day notice?
I don't know.
I'm baffled. It's like I'm ready for the Malvey experiment to be over. That was great, and we can record this and move on. But it's like,
He's always there for a photo op, though.
oh God, if there's something good going on, he's got his
He's
hand
got his-
around some
it's like-
poor child, smiling. It's like, I'm just hoping that Dr. Malvey's not doing what I would like to think he's not doing, and that's advocating to stay here longer. Because there's really no reason at this point.
Oh, we've
already
hired somebody. I mean, we just bring him in, get it going, bring him in, get this done.
I'd like to think that's what we're going to do with this.
Yeah.
I didn't see any pictures of him passing out apples this year, though.
Oh, that would be
I
Mr.
can see-
Norquist.
Him and Kurt.
Kurt was.
Kurt?
Fine, Kurt, let's pass.
Well, his pigs are
You want
going to
an
choke
apple?
on those apples.
Listen, make sure you take the Brillo pads out.
Sorry, folks, inside joke. We were going to talk about Common Core, but obviously we're gonna run out of time tonight. Kyle, how much time do we have left? Okay, we got about 10 minutes left.
Hey, I have a question.
Sure.
That is completely off the subject, and it kind of goes with Common Core and the state core. Did we ever get a teacher evaluation? Is that done yet?
I thought that had to be negotiated into the contract.
It does have to be negotiated.
Well, they're working.
It can be amended onto the back end of the contract too.
Kyle says, as far as he knows, nothing has been amended and it's not complete. And that was the big thing in 2010 when we're talking 4 years ago. We were talking about this, and it had to be negotiated into the contract. Now, why would an evaluation have to be negotiated into a contract?
Because the state said it had to be. It's the only reason.
Are you serious?
Well,
You
the
didn't know
state
that?
said when the
No.
Oh.
state came out with the
God's
Yeah.
sakes. That,
What was that? Was that
they didn't
down this
understand
rabbit
what
hole.
district.
Was that
Years ago.
2011 when the state, was it 11 or 12 when the state came out and said, we've
When
got
did we
brand,
get on the school committee?
you were on a year before me,
That was
What
2010.
year did
You got in
I got on
2011.
2010.
11.
I got on
2011.
So around then, because that was one of the
That's
first
right,
things I
'cause
started
they-
working on,
Yeah.
was the teacher evaluation. What they did was they came out with the model, and they said, "This is what you have to do. Everything's great. It's wonderful. Oh, by the way, negotiate it with your union because you have to."
Well, remember that was when they said in 2000.
You don't remember? You don't remember?
I do.
that?
Well, no, because in
I was
2000, in
like-
2010, they said. I remember they said. Well, they gave them they've paid them $60,000 in total for the teachers to go off and do these seminars and learn how to do these evaluations and come back with the
Oh,
Yeah,
ideas.
I
the
think-
money that they paid to develop the old
to develop. Right. That's what I'm getting to.
That's
So
what
they
you're talking
developed
about.
the
Yeah,
old one.
the old one.
So now we're ready to implement it. Well, Dr. Hicks is losing his mind because these guys haven't put it in yet. So Ralph finally takes the union to a hearing, and the judge says, no problem. This needs to be followed. Then within months, that's when the state came in during your tenures.
And we looked
said,
at it,
Oh, we're scrapping
and-
that.
and I
Yeah,
remember-
that- yeah,
Be kidding
yeah.
me.
We
It's
looked
like-
at it, and the union said, "Oh no, the one that we just did is more than good enough." And we're looking at it, going, "Well, it's pretty different. It's not completely different, but there's a lot of differences. The state's not going to go for this." Oh no! The state's going to go for this. The state's going to go for it. Well, we'll send it to them, but I don't think the state's going to go for this. We really should just adopt, because the state said. Basically, in the state way of saying things, they said we're nicer to the districts that just adopt what we tell them to adopt, or you can adapt.
Take the money or I shoot the dog.
Well, yeah. Or you can adapt, which basically you're gonna do what we told you to do anyway, or you can do your own, and we'll take a look at it. And when the state says they're gonna take a look at something, that means just
As strong as this piece of spaghetti.
yeah. So
You can see him trying to point it. you know?
Well, the only reason I asked that question was because I was thinking about the Common Core, and I know we were planning on talking a little bit about it, and that was
It's kind of the same thing.
well, it was a precursor to having your curriculum. That was in my mind. With the curriculum was, shucks, we don't really have a great curriculum setup in this district, unless something's happened since I got off the committee. But I remember when we were on the committee that the curriculum was in shambles. They were teaching different things in different places, and stuff wasn't working out right, and we needed to build from the ground up, and all those great PowerPoint presentations we got on how much we need to work on curriculum.
We talk about curriculum.
We talk the hell out of it,
game
man.
on curriculum.
Hell yeah.
We're going to align that bad boy no matter what. We've only been working on it for 6 years, but eventually we're going to align it. And this is something that every district does. And it's not, as you said, it's not hard to move into. When we were talking about this last night doing a show prep, it's like if your curriculum's aligned, things are a lot easier to move into new directions.
Hey, go grab an oar.
Well, it's
I
interesting.
think we're going in a
because
circle again.
Go grab an oar.
You look at other districts that were aligned with the state frameworks, which I'm not a teacher. I'm just a parent. But from how it was explained to me by people that are supposed to be smarter than I am, which isn't tough, but you were supposed to be aligned with the state frameworks. They've been out for decades, and if you were aligned with the latest revision of the state frameworks, it was not a complicated jump to go to the Common Core. When people started switching over to the Common Core, the districts that were all set with the state guidelines, the state frameworks, they just kind of hopped over and made a few minor adjustments, and everything went fine. So I look at Spencer and wonder what the heck is going on.
Well, it wouldn't hurt, and I've said this before. And when the teachers, when I was on the school committee, the teachers were like, we really need full days of professional development. By the time we get the kids out the door, and we get everything done, we get maybe 2.5 hours, maybe 3 hours.
When they do a half day.
Of a half day. And here we are 4 years later, still doing several half days. And then from what I understand, and I know this isn't bad information because a number of people have said this, You go to one place and it's not there. Oh, it's over here instead. So it's never even, it's not even
Well,
coordinated.
one of the biggest complaints about professional development when I was on the committee was that it was so fragmented. The feedback was that it was pretty useless. It was these little snippets of information on different subjects that had nothing to do with each other. So they would do one thing for a couple hours, and then you
Right.
go over and do something else, and then you go over and do
and
something
it's
else.
frustrating for the teachers.
And it
I
was
get
hard
it.
to track because they can use that for the required number of whatever it is, PDPs or whatever.
But it's not
And
helping.
they couldn't track it very well, and they couldn't put it all together very well, so it wasn't really doing anything. But
Give
they've
'em a
been working
full
on
day.
that for 4 years. They've been working on curriculum for 4 years, teacher evaluations for 4
But
years.
we got PowerPoints that will blow your mind. Let me tell you.
It's all about the
All right,
PowerPoint.
we got
We
about,
have, we've gotten some of the best
It's all about the
PowerPoints
PowerPoints.
in the history of PowerPoints in this,
This is
district.
this is what we need.
I'm never getting that time back, those PowerPoints, let me tell you.
Oh, God, it's 5 minutes of my life I'll never get back. We got about
Hours.
4 minutes left, so we're going to...
Hours.
Kyle goes, that's all. Couple of quick public service announcement. Don't forget the food pantry at St. Mary's. The holidays are coming up. Please, if you can volunteer some food, this is the time of year when our neighbors can definitely use it most.
Hey, I just real quick, with the food pantry.
Sure.
The holidays are coming up. We do a Thanksgiving dinner up there on Thanksgiving. It's really good. It's fun.
You do Thanksgiving dinner on
On
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving, yeah.
That's good. That's a good thing to do. Thanksgiving.
novel approach.
Thanks-
You know what? Somebody would have asked, when do you do it? So I said it, okay? Because somebody would have said, when is Thanksgiving dinner? Well,
Christmas.
It's at noon. You got to be specific.
It's 10 overrides.
But and they take donations of all kinds of food for the baskets that go home, but also for that dinner. And it's a lot of it's good. It's really good. A lot of people
they
get
do
fed
a
up
great
there.
job.
So
They do a great job. Spencer Fire Department is looking for volunteers. Anybody has any questions, please contact Bobby Parsons. Again, please like the Spencer Toys for Tots page on Facebook. If there's any families in need and the kids are under 12 years old, you can go down and talk to Lisa DeVries down at ERA Key Realty on Route 9 and talk to her. Also, you can like their page and follow them on there. They do a great job every year. Can't say enough about Lisa and Don and the group that puts this all together. Please like Lily Lund's, I always get that mixed up. Lily Lund's pages. She runs Spencer Open Forum, Spencer Non-Collaborative, and the Spencer Bulletin Board. And she does a great job, and she's definitely keeping the conversation going. Please check out our Facebook page on Facebook, The Other Side. Gentlemen, any final thoughts, comments, digs, shots?
what do you got, Paul? I know you got something.
No, I don't. No digs or shots or anything like that. I'm very disappointed with the turnout of how the override went.
It's sad.
I think it's a lot of a lack of information, a lack of knowledge. I think you have a select group of people running around this town, not even giving the proper information, and it scares other people to death. So,
Well, I think the override not passing sucks. I think kids not getting the education that they deserve sucks. I think not having a curriculum that's set up correctly sucks. So now that we've gone through all the things that suck, I just think everybody needs to work on sucking a little less. That's it.
interesting concept.
All right, folks. You heard it from Professor Cote. Again, thank you for joining us, and we'll be back in 2 weeks, and we will be touching base on Common Core and a
Who
group
knows?
of other discussion. And we may not even get to Common Core. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you next time on The Other Side.
2 weeks.
Take care and have a good night.